Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. The French Revolution, which began in 1789, was a dramatic upheaval that dismantled the centuries-old monarchy and aristocratic privilege in France. The revolution was driven by widespread discontent among the common people, who suffered under heavy taxation, food shortages, and economic crises, while the nobility and clergy lived in luxury. The ideas of Enlightenment thinkers, such as Rousseau and Voltaire, inspired the revolutionaries, leading to demands for a government based on liberty, equality, and fraternity. The storming of the Bastille on July 14, 1789, became a powerful symbol of the people's resistance against oppression. The revolution led to the execution of King Louis XVI and Queen Marie Antoinette, the rise of radical movements like the Jacobins, and the infamous Reign of Terror under Robespierre. Ultimately, the revolution profoundly reshaped France and influenced movements for democracy and human rights worldwide. The Irish Revolution, spanning from the late 18th century to the early 20th century, was rooted in centuries of British rule and economic exploitation. By the late 1700s, Ireland was under the control of the British Crown, with power concentrated in the hands of the Protestant ascendancy, while the largely Catholic population faced discrimination, land seizures, and harsh economic conditions. Inspired by the American and French revolutions, the United Irishmen, led by figures such as Wolfe Tone, sought to establish an independent Irish republic. The 1798 rebellion, though brutally suppressed by British forces, marked a significant moment in Irish nationalist resistance. The struggle continued into the 19th and 20th centuries, with uprisings like the Easter Rising of 1916 and the subsequent War of Independence, 1919-1921, which eventually led to the creation of the Irish Free State in 1922. Both revolutions shared common themes: the fight for self-determination, resistance against oppressive rulers, and the influence of revolutionary ideals sweeping across Europe and the world. In both cases, economic hardship played a crucial role in fueling discontent. The French peasantry suffered under unfair taxation and food shortages, while the Irish people endured land dispossession and economic exploitation under British rule. Enlightenment ideas were a driving force behind both movements, as calls for individual rights and national sovereignty gained momentum. Violence and radicalism played key roles, with both revolutions witnessing executions, mass uprisings, and intense crackdowns by ruling authorities. The legacies of these revolutions endure, shaping the modern identities of France and Ireland as nations that fought for freedom and justice against powerful oppressors. The French and Irish revolutions, though separated by geography and specific political contexts, shared a fundamental struggle: the fight against oppressive rule in pursuit of freedom and self-determination. Both revolutions emerged from deep social and economic grievances, driven by Enlightenment ideals that emphasized individual rights, political representation, and national sovereignty. In France, the revolution erupted in 1789 as the common people, burdened by heavy taxation, food shortages, and an unyielding aristocracy, demanded change. The monarchy, led by King Louis XVI, ruled with absolute power, while the nobility and clergy enjoyed privileges that the rest of the population could not access. Inspired by Enlightenment thinkers like Rousseau and Montesquieu, revolutionaries pushed for a new system based on equality and democratic governance. The storming of the Bastille, the abolition of feudal privileges, and the eventual execution of the king signaled a radical transformation of French society. However, the revolution also descended into turmoil, with the Reign of Terror ushering in mass executions before giving way to Napoleon's rise. Similarly, in Ireland, the struggle for freedom was rooted in centuries of British rule, economic hardship, and religious discrimination. By the late 18th century, power was concentrated in the hands of the Protestant ascendancy, while the Catholic majority faced severe restrictions under the penal laws. Inspired by the American and French revolutions, the United Irishmen, led by Wolfe Tone, sought to establish an independent republic where all Irish people, regardless of religion, could have equal rights. The 1798 rebellion, though brutally suppressed, became a turning point in the fight for Irish independence, laying the groundwork for later uprisings, including the 1916 Easter Rising and the War of Independence. The revolutions shared key similarities in their struggles. Both saw mass uprisings fueled by discontent with oppressive regimes, where ordinary people took up arms against powerful rulers. In both cases, Enlightenment ideas played a crucial role in shaping revolutionary thought, with calls for liberty, equality, and national sovereignty driving their movements. The demand for political representation was central. French revolutionaries sought to dismantle the monarchy in favor of a government that represented the people, while Irish revolutionaries aimed to break free from British rule and govern themselves. Despite these similarities, the outcomes of the revolutions differed. The French Revolution led to the complete overthrow of the monarchy and the establishment of a republic, albeit through a turbulent period of radicalism, counter-revolutions, and war. In contrast, Ireland's fight for independence was a prolonged struggle that took more than a century, culminating in the creation of the Irish Free State in 1922. While France's revolution reshaped its political system relatively quickly, Ireland had to endure multiple uprisings, military conflicts, and negotiations before achieving partial independence. Both revolutions left lasting legacies, inspiring future movements for democracy and self-determination worldwide. They serve as powerful reminders of the resilience of oppressed people in the face of tyranny and the enduring fight for justice, representation, and national sovereignty. The French and Irish revolutions were both born from a struggle against oppression, yet their historical contexts, impacts, and ultimate legacies followed very different paths. While the French Revolution became a defining moment in European history, reshaping political and social structures across the continent, the Irish Revolution was more focused on breaking free from British rule, with its influence largely confined to Ireland itself. The French Revolution began in 1789 as a reaction to absolute monarchy, aristocratic privilege, and economic hardship. The monarchy, led by King Louis XVI, ruled with unchecked power, while the majority of the population suffered from food shortages, heavy taxation, and social inequality. Inspired by Enlightenment ideals, revolutionaries sought to dismantle the old order and create a society based on liberty, equality, and fraternity. The revolution saw radical changes, including the execution of the king, the abolition of feudal privileges, and the rise of the radical Jacobins, who initiated the Reign of Terror. France's revolution did not just transform its own nation, it sent shockwaves across Europe, inspiring movements for democracy and nationalism while also triggering conflicts with monarchies that sought to suppress revolutionary ideas. The Napoleonic Wars that followed spread these revolutionary ideals further, leading to political reforms in various European states. The Irish Revolution, by contrast, was primarily focused on achieving national independence rather than triggering broad political transformations across Europe. Under British rule, Ireland's Catholic majority faced political and economic marginalization, with power concentrated in the hands of the Protestant elite. Inspired by the American and French revolutions, Irish nationalists, led by the United Irishmen, sought to create a republic that would unite Catholics and Protestants in opposition to British dominance. The 1798 rebellion, however, was swiftly crushed by British forces, and Ireland remained under British control for more than a century. While later uprisings, such as the 1916 Easter Rising and the Irish War of Independence, 1919-1921, ultimately led to the creation of the Irish Free State in 1922, the revolution's impact remained largely limited to Ireland itself rather than sparking widespread political change abroad. The outcomes of these revolutions were drastically different. The French Revolution led to the complete overthrow of the monarchy, radical social restructuring, and the spread of democratic ideals across Europe. Although it descended into violence and political instability, it ultimately paved the way for modern republicanism and influenced constitutional development worldwide. In contrast, Ireland's revolution was a prolonged struggle that did not immediately succeed in securing full independence. Even after the establishment of the Irish Free State, Northern Ireland remained under British control, leading to further conflicts in the 20th century. Despite these differences, both revolutions left enduring legacies. The French Revolution redefined the relationship between the people and their government, challenging the legitimacy of absolute rule and inspiring democratic movements across the world. The Irish struggle, while more localized, became a symbol of resistance against colonial rule and influenced other independence movements. Each revolution, in its own way, demonstrated the power of ordinary people to challenge oppression and fight for self-determination, even though their paths and impacts diverged significantly. Thank you for watching this video.